Whether you operate one forklift or thousands, one location or hundreds, the new My Toyota customer portal can help you optimize your operation and material handling equipment. This one-stop, free-to-use platform is designed to help you take control of your information and make smarter decisions, all at the touch of a button. Register and access your data today at my.toyotaforklift.com. That's my.toyotaforklift.com.
The New Warehouse Podcast, hosted by Kevin Lawton, is your source for insights and ideas from the distribution, transportation, and logistics industry. A new episode every Monday morning brings you the latest from industry experts and thought leaders. And now, here's Kevin.
Hey, it's Kevin Lawton with the New Warehouse Podcast here at MODEX 2020 in Atlanta, and we're at the New Warehouse Podcast booth. I am now joined by Jeremy Wishart, who is the Director of Off-Road Business Development for the Propane Education and Research Council. And you may be wondering, what are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about propane. So, Jeremy, welcome to the show. How are you?
Thank you for having me. We're doing great today.
All right. So, tell us a little bit about what the Propane Education and Research Council does.
Sure. So just to start to describe what the Propane Council is.
Sure.
If you've ever heard of a checkoff program, sort of like what they do in the ag world with milk board, egg board, essentially every gallon of odorized propane that's sold in the United States, there is a monetary checkoff that gets paid back to PERC. So it's really the propane industry reinvesting in themselves. We use that money to do things like technology development, marketing campaigns, communications campaigns, and then a whole lot of safety and training. Everything from workforce safety and training all the way through consumer education and training and just awareness in general. So we really have three core things that we do: the technology, education, and safety.
All right, interesting stuff. So now you are Director of Off-Road Business Development. So what does that really mean? What's the definition of off-road to you guys?
So in very general terms, off-road is anything that does not go on the road that would need a license or any sort of registration. To kind of drill down even farther, that's everything from a small engine that you might see in like a lawnmower, all the way up to forklifts, obviously, and even port equipment that you might see, like a terminal tractor or a reach stacker or a container handler, anything. Essentially, I tell people anything from about 1 liter to well over 500 horsepower in some applications.
Okay, interesting stuff. So I'm guessing, you're here at MODEX, right? So you're here obviously because we have some forklifts in our industry that are powered by propane. So what do you guys, I guess, here you're probably creating some kind of awareness around what you guys do, obviously. So what kind of awareness are you trying to generate around forklifts that generate power using propane?
Sure. First and foremost, propane is a big part of the material handling industry. Powers lift trucks. Roughly about 500,000 lift trucks in the United States currently operate on propane right now. It's a very historied fuel in terms of the forklift industry. Obviously, we want to grow that, but more than that, we want to protect the market share that we have. So really, we reinvest in new technology. We're showing some new technology in our booth here in terms of emissions reductions.
That's a good thing.
We have a company, Tecogen, that is showing a 2-stage catalytic converter in our booth on a Caterpillar forklift truck right now that lowers carbon monoxide and nitrogen oxide emissions, which is huge when you think about indoor air quality and operator safety and employee safety that are working around the lift trucks. Aside from that, we're also doing things like investigating hybrid drive technologies on propane. So propane being the generator, or the propane engine being the generator that keeps the battery topped off versus having to plug it in or account for recharging in other ways. We're also here obviously promoting safety, promoting safe handling, safe refueling of the product. And then last but not least, we're here just to continue to build awareness and let everybody know that propane is a viable energy source and will continue to be a viable energy source in this market going forward.
Okay, interesting stuff. So talk to me a little bit about, because I'm familiar, I've worked in distribution space, I'm familiar with propane-powered forklift trucks, but not to the extent of where I've actually been in operation where we've had to utilize them, because we haven't necessarily had to have that much power. But obviously we've had people come in, install racking and things of that nature, and they have more heavy duty trucks which are powered by propane. So tell me a little bit about, kind of the safety that's involved with that, and what is really essential for a person to do if they're looking to get involved with propane.
Sure. So, propane has been around for well over 100 years.
Right.
It's an extremely safe fuel. It's contained in a cylinder on the lift truck itself. That cylinder is many times puncture resistant, some upwards of 10 to 20 times more puncture resistant than your standard gasoline or diesel tank.
Right. So
it's a very durable system. The system itself is a closed loop system, so it's always feeding back unused fuel back into the tank.
Right.
There are many fail-safes built in such that if there ever were a leak, many of the valves on the cylinder itself or within the fuel system on the forklift would immediately shut off, cease operation, and then you would be able to address that from a mechanic standpoint. Okay. From a safe refueling operation, it's a simple, I like to say it's as simple as swapping out a cylinder. Now, there is some weight there, some OSHA things that you have to abide by,
right.
But it's a very simple, very fast cylinder swap to get back up and running again versus having to either plug in a lift truck or find other sources, or maybe even go off site to refuel a lift truck if you're operating a diesel lift truck or something. From propane standpoint, it can operate indoors and outdoors. Diesel can't go indoors. Some electric trucks can't go outdoors. So there's a common misconception that propane can't operate indoors. There's nothing nationwide that would ban propane from operating indoors. Obviously, you want it to be a well-ventilated space with any type of internal combustion engine, but propane is often also looked at as only a heavy-duty fuel, and that's kind of a misconception because some of the lower Class 4 and Class 5 lift trucks that are under 3 tons, that's still a 3-ton lift capacity, that is. That's still a fairly light-duty truck.
Right.
But propane also reaches into those upper, multiple 10-ton, 15-ton lift capacity applications. So it spans a wide array of uses and lift capacities in the material handling market.
All right, interesting. So talk to us a little bit about, from a safety perspective, just as one part that I am aware of from experience, is that, the storage of those propane tanks now, you need to take certain safety precautions with that. So what is that? I know that has to be like outside a certain distance from the building and such.
Yeah, so in general terms, and it might vary slightly by
state,
whatever jurisdiction you're in, state, locality, or even down to a town.
Right.
But in general terms, you're going to have a encaged or enclosed cage to store the cylinders in, both empty and full cylinders. Sometimes that can be inside, depending on the location. Most of the times it's outside, but it's near an access point, whether that's a door or an overhead garage door type thing. Right. From a refueling standpoint, like I said, it's a simple swap out. It's sub 5 minutes, maybe even sub 3 minutes with the proper techniques. Extremely easy, extremely safe in that it has its own fuel shutoff valve plus the valve that you actually physically turn on and turn off on the tank itself. So very safe, very sound, very easy process for refueling.
Okay. And now, so you guys also focus on education as well. So, what type of education offerings do you guys have for people, I guess, in the material handling industry and just kind of propane in general?
Sure. So I'll call it very general education. We don't have like certification programs because typically that's going to be an OSHA or some other certifying entity. What we have is very general in terms of emissions reductions, the true emissions profile of propane in a lift truck application, especially compared to electric, diesel, and gasoline. From upsource, from where the site of the energy is produced, all the way through its use. We also have a lot of information on total cost of ownership from the time that you buy that piece of equipment to the time that you retire it. Every bit of in cost or input that is encompassed in that total cost of ownership. We have information on that. Simple information on the safety and training aspects like the refueling, simple troubleshooting of propane forklift products, various things like that. Just very high-level stuff that can at least begin to answer some questions for you that maybe a forklift fleet manager or a fleet contractor of some sort or even a fleet associate may not necessarily know, but can pass along by simply looking at our equipment.
Okay, interesting stuff. So now what has, I guess here at MODEX, what's the response been from the booth traffic you've had?
So it's interesting. This is our first year of having a physical booth presence here at the show.
Okay.
The last couple of years, I've walked MODEX, I've walked ProMat for the last couple of years. So it's been a very good reception. It's always interesting to hear, and I guess you don't really know what you're going to see until you physically have the booth here,
right.
The interaction that you're going to have and the response that you get. But it's interesting to see the amount of people that are well versed with propane, very happy with the propane forklifts they have, or coming to us asking about propane, and maybe they're in a situation where they've had something else and they're coming back to propane, or I don't want to say propane's entirely new to them, but they've only done it or only known it one way in the past, so we can kind of open some doors for them. So it's been very good in terms of the conversations we've been having and the response that we've seen so far.
Okay, cool. And so now with all the technology and everything that's happening at MODEX, and you talked a little bit about some solution you have in your booth to reduce emissions, like what is kind of the future of propane, do you think?
So I like to tell people we're really focusing on energy efficiency, fuel efficiency, emissions reductions, and safety in all aspects. So I think you're going to see, from a propane aspect, obviously energy prices being what they are, gasoline and diesel kind of play a very volatile curve across a long-term spectrum if you look at it. They're down today. Propane is a very stable price. Propane is extremely affordable, but we're trying to amplify the fuel efficiency, the overall operator efficiency of propane lift trucks in general with all of our manufacturing partners. Obviously lowering emissions with various new technologies, whether it's hybrid or after treatment, exhaust after treatment, or something along those lines. And then obviously continuing to push safety is a huge aspect of what we do across all of our markets, not just the material handling market, but I think you're going to see that become kind of a key focus of ours going forward.
Okay. All right. Really interesting stuff. So how can people find out more about the Propane Education and Research Council? Or PERC, you call it, I guess.
Yeah. So we have a acronym PERC, which is just Propane Education and Research Council. You probably also heard me call it Propane Council to just shorten everything up. We are online at www.propane.com. When you go on that website, you'll see all of the markets that we serve, everything from residential to on-road vehicles that we call auto gas to also the material handling markets. Everything is on propane.com. And certainly if you can't find it there, you can call us directly at the office at 202-452-8975.
All right, great. So Jeremy, thank you so much for stopping by the booth and teaching us a little bit about propane, and we'll definitely post all that information on the newwarehouse.com as well, and hope you enjoy the rest of the show.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
You've been listening to the New Warehouse Podcast with Kevin Lawton. Subscribe and check us out online at thenewwarehouse.com.
Thank you for listening to this episode. If you want more content from the New Warehouse, check out our new video series called All Hands on LinkedIn. Just search for the New Warehouse on LinkedIn and follow along.